Okay, any questions at this point? I know it's quite a long presentation, but I need to carry the message of hope, the message of solutions. Questions?
What's the cost of using the UV light for the treatment of the pool? Please tell me.
The cost of a UV light for the pool compared to chlorine, your initial capital cost depending on the size of the pool, your capital cost can be anywhere between 7,000 up to 20,000 rand, depending on, that's the money you've got to pay for the equipment. But then you replace the lamp once a year if you run your pump 24/7. If you run your pump 12 hours a day, you replace your lamp every 2 years at the cost of about 1,000 rand. So you don't have the ongoing cost of buying chlorine. There's a capital cost for the equipment, but then you have, let's say with installation, 1,500 rand every 2 years to replace your lamp. So eventually it's a lot cheaper. Any other questions? Is it household rainwater system or greywater system? Rainwater system. The average cost of a rainwater system, that depends very much on what needs to be done. As you've seen in this other case study where gutters had to be moved, or roofs had to be added, that becomes a more costly exercise. Other than that, you're looking at a water tank, depending on the size of the tank, the amount of you want to store as well. You're looking at about, depending on the manufacturer, 1,000 to 1,500 rand per 1,000 liters of water that you want to store. In other words, a 10,000 liter tank costing you about 15,000 rand. And then you've got your pump, you've got your filters. Thumbs up, Brendan?
Yeah, like 20 to 30, I would think, for an average.
20 to 30 for the most basic system. Once you start adding the automatic changeovers and you add bigger tanks, you can go up to 60, 70,000. That's if there's not huge construction needed to get the rainwater to a central point. But the beauty is,
depends what you want to do with it. If it's just for filling your pool or irrigation, then it's obviously a lot cheaper.
Inside of the house, you've got to do proper treatment. If it's for toilet flushing or for irrigation, it's obvious, or pool top-up, it's a lot cheaper as well. The nice part is you can start with something and you can expand on it. You can start with a tank and you can manually collect water if needed. Then, if there's more cash flow, you can add a pump to it. So you can start with something very basic and you can build on it as well. It doesn't mean that you have to start with a 200,000 rand system. So it depends very much. What we do in cases like this, talking from a company point of view now, is we look at every customer's need, then we look at what is available, and then we look at the money side of things. And we bring all of that together. It becomes a Lego set. There's so many things we can play with, going from basic to most elaborate systems. But with that in mind, it can be custom made to the customer's need as well. But yeah, less than 20,000 rand, you're not really going to get away with anything meaningful. So,
the minimum size of your water tank to make an operation with minimum cost of 20,000 rand viable, according to property size. So obviously, if you're living in a 40 or 60 square place, you won't have space to store more than, say, for example, 2,500 liters max on property without any ground. Where is that balance? Do you have a minimum recommended reservoir size per property area that you catch rainwater?
The question is there a minimum level where it becomes a break-even point, where below that it doesn't become worthwhile? I don't think so. The more rainwater you can store, the quicker your payback. The less you can store, the longer your payback, but you will have a payback, that's for sure. And if you're looking at municipal water, just looking at Joburg again, in the last 3 years, the water prices increased 9%, 9.5%, and 9% again. So water inflation is above inflation. It will continue to be above inflation to try and catch up with the infrastructure that is in the condition that it is. So whatever investment you now make, you will have free water whatever amount it is, you will have that amount of water. Remember also when it rains, it doesn't rain one day and nothing for the other 364 days of the year. Every time it rains, you harvest water. Every time it rains, you store. Yes, the more you can store, the more you benefit, but I don't believe there's a minimum cut-off point.
Is there no, in terms of running costs, because remember your pump is consuming, that's not for the last year. So if you're paying, say for example, what, if you use the cheapest DSD pumps in the market is probably something like 8,000 to 9,000 rand. The operational cost on that means you have to have a balancing because
Okay.
it's consuming.
Yeah, but what you now have to keep in mind, you're talking about the operational cost of the pump because the pump will fail and need to be replaced. Your pump is designed to run a certain number of hours. So if you have a small tank, your pump will run less hours before it runs out of water. So instead of lasting 8 years, your pump may last 16 years. If you have a bigger tank, you replace your pump more often because it has reached its end of life design capacity. Filter is the same. The more water you have in your tank, the more water you put through your filters, the more often you need to replace them. The less water you have in your tank, the longer it takes between filter change intervals. So yes, there's a capital cost that's fixed, but the operational cost actually becomes the operational cost per litre that you put through there. It doesn't matter what volume it is.
Any water use license is required for the stores of residential?
Water use license required, to the best of my knowledge, and I stand to be corrected. If guys with the EAs can help me out here. Now, for rainwater harvesting on your average domestic scale is not needed. You start getting into, if you get into serious volume, if you take water from rivers and stuff, it's a different story. But if you catch off your roof, there's no license required for that.
So, Aaron, maybe just on that, so we've got an instance now where...
I'm going to hand the mic to you quickly.
Sorry, we've got an instance now where a large commercial property was collecting all their rainwater into an attenuation pond that they built, and then abstracting the water from that pond and using it, and now that's seems to be a grey area. So now Vula license is coming into play there, so water use license is coming into play there. It doesn't make any sense because they built the attenuation pond. It's their rainwater off their roofs that's going, but because they're pumping it from the pond, now it's a bit of an issue. So, but on a domestic level, there's no problem, and most standard, smaller commercial properties, there's no issue with it.
So the problem is not the rainwater, the problem is the pond.
The problem is the pond. Yes, you see, our legislation has never really. It wasn't designed for the situation we find ourselves in right now.
What's the alternative?
Thanks.
Thanks. Yeah, if they put it into use, maybe that's no problem. Yeah.
Isn't there legislation regarding the amount of water that you're allowed to store above ground?
Okay, we're going to repeat a lot of things here because we do have people online as well. We have people in Kenya and in South America also listening to us. Yes, there is. You read your legislation, it's a few million litres that you can store before you actually start getting into that. What happened in the case of this pond, it is now seen as a dam. And you can only have a certain size dam, and that's where the problem comes in. But you need to catch some serious rainwater before you run into legislation problems there. At the back?
Just to comment on the gentleman's question about payback period on the residential side, you also need to keep in mind that the more water that you have available, the more you will actually eventually consume. So you're actually going to reach a quicker payback period eventually. Because if you've got no water, you can't calculate the saving interest. If you only have 10 liters a month available, you can only calculate within that 10 liters. But now you've got 30 or 40 available, so you're actually plus using or you are actually paying back.
Yeah, so the short version of what you're saying, just to repeat it for everybody, is the more water you can store, the quicker you pay back, which is natural. Absolutely. Anything else? Right, we're going to step onto greywater and then wastewater, where you see even bigger benefits coming through. Looking at greywater, before I change the slide now, I want to again ask, Who in this room doesn't like the idea of grey water because it smells really bad the minute you use it and you irrigate with it? Okay, see some heads nodding there. How many people doesn't like the idea because of the foul? Okay, there's some more hands coming up. And that is true. A lot of people don't want to harvest grey water because it's associated with foul odor. You can't afford to send your wife go shopping every time you want to irrigate the garden with grey water. That sum doesn't make sense. But when you treat it, you don't have the foul odor problem. If you treat it, you can store it for months at a time. I know, I've done it. And it can be used for an array of non-drinking purposes. There are guys that put it through filters, taking it to drinking water, but then you need to register as a water services provider. It becomes a lot more difficult. Use it for irrigating your garden, use it for flushing your toilet, use it for hosing off your paving. And then you don't trigger any of those, and it's cheap. Now, when you use grey water, as I said earlier, you reduce your potable water demand, so you save your municipal bill. But even if you do rainwater harvesting, your rainwater tanks will last longer. So you have a double score off the same water source. But at the same time, it's coming back to what Darren said. If we use our grey water, we reduce the amount of wastewater we send to the municipal systems, which are often overloaded. So when we reduce volume to the municipal systems, we give them a chance to do a better job. Not only will they discharge less water, but they will discharge treated effluent of a better quality, which has a double benefit again to our river systems. And when you use it, keep in mind, depending on the source of the grey water, it may contain bacteria. If somebody was ill or something like that. So if you use it where human contact is possible, like irrigating a sports field that somebody's going to play on there, do disinfect it before you discharge, before you use it for irrigation purposes. This is just, now from here on I'm going to use a few products that are built by my own company. I'm not saying these are the only products on the market, I'm not saying these are absolutely the best, we always try to be the best. I'm using this as an example because this is what I know best. There are other companies, there are other manufacturers in the industry, so this is not to talk down to any manufacturer or play off one against the other. I'm just showing you what is practically possible. In this case, it's an underground tank. That's the one that you saw in the lawn there. You'll see it again just now. Underground tank with a filtration chamber taking out the hair and the lint and all the other stuff. A storage chamber where it's aerated and then we pump from there. So you're taking a lot of your coarse debris out here. All that stuff that normally clog up your non-return valve of the pump. The stuff that actually clogs up your pump. Those things we filter out beforehand and then we take it into the irrigation system. With this system, you can put it through your automatic irrigation and it won't clog your sprinklers. The longest one in use is 9 years now, without any problems. So that's that same one there. We do have another irrigation filter to take out finer stuff. Remember, we've got the coarse filter on gravity, and then on the pump line a finer filter, the pump there, and it feeds straight into the irrigation system. In this case, there's also an automatic changeover, because the grey water alone may not be enough. So when you run out of grey water, or if you're on holiday and there's nobody there generating grey water, if the grey water tank runs out, you will automatically change over to municipal water. It's all done automated again. Now you can go one step further. You have your rainwater harvesting system. And if that is full, it can overflow and you can top up your grey water system. But then you need to be very careful when you do that. Because when it's full, you want your grey water to overflow to the sewer, otherwise your grey water ends up in our rivers. And you want your rainwater to overflow to the stormwater, otherwise you flood our sewer systems and create another problem. It's doable, we've done it before, so the two waters will mix in the tank, and when the tank is full, it will actually shut off the rainwater, divert it to a different direction going into the stormwater, and the grey water will just overflow into the sewer system. So that is quite possible. Here's another case. Chris, I think this is more in your line of tanks, but small maybe. But there you've got your rainwater harvesting system, you've got your grey water system under the trampoline, it's out of sight, it's out of mind. In this case, there was no space underground, so we put a filter chamber and lifting station in the paving. And then the grey water tank here, there's the pump for the grey water system, and rainwater harvesting right next to it. So again, very small space, slimline tanks. Yes, they cost a bit of money, but you can put them like we've done here, and there's still enough space in the walkway. This guy couldn't fit a 2,500 tank because then there's no space to walk. So these are 1,000-litre slim lines. There's your filter station and your pump that you see in the picture there. A little panel that we've built that does your automatic switch over. So here you can have different inputs, your tank water, municipal water with an automatic switch over. But remember, with automatic switch over, you need to have your RPZ in place as well. So the panel is not the only answer, you need to definitely do that RPZ. This is for a block of flats. There's your filter chamber, there's your storage aeration chamber, and here we go on a double VSD system through the filters, through disinfection, and then it goes back into toilet flushing. Remember, toilet flushing in a domestic setup is about 30% of your water. So if you do this, you save 30%. In this case, it's a block of flats, so there's not a lot of garden to do compared to the amount of grey water. They have a lot more grey water than what they can use for irrigation. But now they can take it back to the toilets as well. And this is a campus, university campus, where it's a grey water system. There's an underground collection tank below this building, and then it's filtered and it's stored in the tank there, and then used again for toilet flushing and for irrigating the sports fields. So these are the practical things that are possible with grey water systems. Again, I'm not going into design details because then you'll be here till next week, and I don't think you want to listen to my voice that long. Any questions on grey water before we move on to the last topic? Are there restrictions as to where you can use grey water? You cannot use it anywhere where it comes in direct with human contact. In other words, you can't use it for showers, you can't use it for drinking, you can use it for irrigation, you can use it for hard landscaping, cleaning, not human contact, not inside the house. Yeah, of course, you don't want it in your neighbor's property because why do you want to give your neighbor free water anyway if you have a shortage? No, definitely not. And of course, when you do rainwater, grey water, you don't want runoff into your stormwater system because then you start getting into river pollution again. So there's a few basic things to keep in mind. If you use it for garden irrigation, whatever nutrients is in the grey water will be taken up by the plants. What I didn't say here is your grey water often contains ammonia. Ammonia coming from your detergents, coming from somebody taking a leak in the shower or something like that. And your ammonia is not good for the garden in the long run. But the grey water system that uses an aeration process will change your ammonia over to nitrates. Nitrates is fertilizer for your plants. And I'm speaking of practical sites that I've done in Cape Town. The one site used to use 18 kiloliters of grey water plus 12 kiloliters of municipal water per month in summer to keep the garden alive. That was in the old anaerobic grey water systems. With the drought in Cape Town, I designed and changed over to this aerobic system. I shut off the municipal line because there was a water shortage and said whatever survives on the 18 kiloliters of grey water must survive. Whatever dies, too bad. The garden was looking better using only the grey water with aeration than it was using 18 kiloliters of grey water plus 12 kiloliters of municipal water. So you condition your water, you improve the quality of the water, you turn your ammonia into nitrates, and your garden will look significantly better with even less water that you put on there. So it's very, very important to do that investment and do your grey water before you use it for irrigation. If you want to know how, you can put your name down there and we'll get back to you later. Yes, sir.
Maintenance on the greywater systems at that first chamber, is it a regular thing? Obviously, it depends on the density and the chemical use, but
what's the maintenance on the first chamber of that greywater system? It very much depends on abuse. If you have, for instance, a few people living there with long hair, then you'll maintain it more often than short hair. It depends on what you put on the drain at the end of the day. That specific one that you saw there, that was the first prototype I installed in my house in Cape Town. I used to clean that filter once every 3 months in the tank. The other filter, the pressurized filter, after 3 years I opened it for the first time to see what it looks like inside because I've never had a pressure problem. But that's what you're looking at. You can stretch it up to 6 months even. The more abuse, the more regular you're going to clean it. Any other questions? You get other kinds of pre-filters as well that need a lot more maintenance. These ones are designed specific for that. We bring it in from America. That's specifically designed for these core screenings up front. And it's easy. What's not in the slideshow again is that filter has a cartridge that you can pull out, and it takes you 1 minute. I've got a video where a guy does it. It takes you 1 minute to hose it off with hose pipe and put it back in. It's very, very simple to do. Anything else on there?